Hey, hey, y'all seen this? Y'all saw that? Nick, his name is also Nick, over at Tactically Acquired, is the only history YouTuber who did such a good job on a war hero video. I decided not to make my version because he covered everything I would have. His new video is fantastic. Check him out. We going Nick on Nick today. Fuck it. We going Nick on Nick. I ain't never seen a tactically... Hold on. I don't know why I'm looking at my phone. Well, Tactically Acquired video. So this is Nick putting me on Nick. So let's see what we got going on today. We got the most feared sailor of Vietnam, James E. Williams. Let rock.
All right, next. Right here, sir. Name, James Jamie Johnson III, sir.
What?
Son, you do realize you're joining the Navy, right? Yes, sir. And you do realize that requires you to be on the water. Yes, sir. Is there a problem, sir? Well, I mean, listen, son, it's just that, son, it's going to be on the water. That means you need to be able to, you know, it's because you're, you know what? It'll probably be all right. You'll be fine. Thank you, sir.
Why do I feel that? Why do I feel like that's exactly how it go? Like, bruh, you know what, man? Fuck it. Come on. Why not? We done let so many people bribe themselves into this thing. Just come on. Just forget about it. If you know, then come on.
Wait, what do you mean by probably? Next. Guys, I am so pumped to talk about how one man and his boat were able to delete an entire section of brown water. But first, this government shutdown has got me worried, y'all, and I've got bills to pay. This video is brought to you by Supremacy World War III, which is a free online PvP strategy-based game. As a player, you'll navigate the intricacies of a World War III style scenario where you'll pick your own country, steer its economy and its military, and battle for global domination. Alright, so here's how it works. First, you've got to pick your own country. Personally, I'm going to go with the US for obvious reasons. Not because I don't like the other countries, but when you've already got the belt for back-to-back World War champ, why not go with the sure thing, am I right? And since today's video is all about PBRs and waterborne aggression, I'm going to next build up an all-star navy. Why start there? Well, because you could play nice at first, you know, form a...
Was that land or water? Well, hold on.
Navy. Why start there?
Oh, that's land.
Well, because you could play nice at first, you know, form alliances, be diplomatic and all that boring stuff. But when negotiations begin to sink faster than an E4's credit score, well, that's when you're going to call in the Navy. You can then build out your fleet and control the blue stuff, all while your ground buddies handle dividing up all that fresh new real estate that you've just tactically acquired. And if you start playing now, you can get a head start by unlocking the elite frigate for your campaign. That's a $25 elite frigate for the price of free. And you're going to need that frigate because matches run in real time against up to 99 players over weeks, so strategy actually matters here. Not to mention that it's also cross-platform compatible on PC and mobile. I'm genuinely not sure what you're waiting for here, guys. The game is free. Just go ahead and scan the QR code or hit the pinned link down in the description below, and don't forget to get your free frigate. Now, back to the video.
Let's go.
You know, I don't think it'd be a stretch to call the Vietnam War the land of a million war stories. You know, just to name a few, you had the army using helos to spread hate. You had the Marines who managed to take mildly provoked acts of aggression and turn them into completely unhinged chaos. You had men with chiseled jaws and majestic mustaches who were conducting the most classified of...
Okay, my boy having the lingo that I like to acquire, that I tactically acquired. Huh? Okay, I'm liking this.
With chiseled jaws and majestic mustaches who were conducting the most classified of super secret squirrel missions that may or may not have happened. And even the Air Force was out there trying to get their aviation and delivery business off the ground, with legends like Ron I don't give a Terry literally forcing the Air Force to build the first gunships. Hey man, just so you're tracking, I don't like you or this video. Get to the point. Oh my gosh, dude, what are we, like 60 seconds into this video and you're already talking shit? And also, your videos suck, and you're unoriginal. Alright man, I ain't got time for this. I'll deal with you later. Damn, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Well, you were about to do a lead-in about how the Navy was out there getting it done, handing...
My boy got a production going on. My boy edit is on 10. My boy jumping script, coming back, going back to the previous opening scene. Okay.
Got waterborne freedom samples like they were giving out Mardi Gras beads. Yep, that's right. The point that I'm getting at is that it's stories like these that make me proud to be an American, but today, we're not going to be talking about any of these. Instead, we're going to be talking about the Navy. Because make no mistake, you guys, while the Navy was absolutely there rearranging topography as they saw fit, you don't normally see Navy riverboats and coastal gunfire splashed across Vietnam War book cover art. As far as everyone else is concerned, Vietnam was all jungle ambushes, air raids, and that one scene from Forrest Gump. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Time for some data. More than 174,000 sailors served in South Vietnam between 1960 and 1972. At its peak, the Navy had over 30,000 sailors. And as far as the vessels that brought those sailors into battle, that number was well over 300. But of all those ships and all those sailors, there was one type and one man who would rise above the rest. One sailor who racked up so much chest candy that lesser men would buckle under the weight and lean to the left while standing at attention. According to the Navy's own Department of Decorations, his rack would include the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit with Combat V, 2 Navy and Marine Corps medals, 3 Bronze Stars with at least 1 Combat V device, 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Presidential Unit Citations, and way too many others to list. A bunch of...
Wait a minute. I know I ain't tripping. That's Nick. Buddy built like Nick. I'm built like that too. But Buddy built like Nick. Not this Nick. Fat electrician Nick. Nick, you not fooling nobody.
Honor, the Navy Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit with Combat V, 2 Navy and Marine Corps medals, 3 Bronze Stars with at least 1 Combat V device, 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Presidential Unit Citations, and way too many others to list. A bunch of other commendations, foreign awards, unit citations. You know what? Basically enough shiny shit to blind a search party at night. That sailor in question is known as the most decorated enlisted sailor in the history of the United States Navy. So if you haven't already, go ahead and grab yourself some SPS 50, some floaties, and a couple of Mai Tais, because today's story is all about Boatswain's Mate First Class James Elliott Williams.
Let's go. Okay, Will. Okay, James Bill.
James Elliott Williams was born on June 13th, 1930 in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and he grew up in the nearby city of Darlington with his father. His dad, who worked as an investigator, was your typical rough and gruff archetype, and he wanted nothing more than for his son to go to college and to have a professional career. But James Elliott had other ideas. At the age of 10, he remembered seeing his uncle wearing the Navy Crackerjack uniform, and from that moment onward had set his sights on a naval career. Williams would often describe it as, quote, "It was the prettiest uniform I'd ever seen." Sorry, couldn't help myself. Anyway, bored with school, Elliott first attempted to join the Navy at 16, but was told he was too young to enlist. Now, not one to take no for an answer, he then convinced his father to help him to get in, to which he begrudgingly agreed. His dad reached out to a friend who was a county clerk and had them alter Williams' birth certificate so that he could enlist 1 year early. Williams attended boot camp in San Diego in 19...
They always scamming, man. The military got to be the origin of scamming. It got to be. Gotta be.
Certificate so that he could enlist 1 year early. Williams attended boot camp in San Diego in 1947, and later in the year, he joined the deck force of a landing ship based in San Diego. During his time on board, the ship rarely left her mooring, which I'm told is a nautical term for the boat stayed in its liquid parking lot, but whatever. Williams spent most of his time painting the deck.
What the hell are you doing?
Bored.
What?
Bored!
No.
Bored! Bored!
Disappointed that he hadn't been given the opportunity to sail the seven seas, Williams left the Navy after his enlisted had ended in August of 1950, but he later re-enlisted just 3 months later. During his second enlistment, Williams served on the destroyer Douglas H. Fox, and much like his first go-around, he remained bored, unfocused, and not too concerned about where his career was headed. But all that changed when he got a reality check from an old chief who pulled him to the side and told him, Listen to me, son, you've got to learn how to take orders, even if you disagree with them. That is the first step of being a good sailor and a good leader. If you can't take orders now, you certainly won't be respected when you give them later. And apparently the pep talk must have worked. From then on, he would take his career much more seriously. Williams would go on to attend a number of specialty naval schools, and even though he had outstanding results in all of them and many years of service at sea, no matter how hard he tried, he could not make it past Petty Officer First Class, which is, hold on, what's that? See, it's E6. Yeah, it's E6. So yeah, kind of like a staff sergeant in the Army or the Marines. Look guys, I'm gonna level with you. I don't know jack about Navy and Air Force enlisted ranks. The Air Force is doing way too much with all them extra squiggly lines and and that damn eagle in the Navy just pisses me off. Y'all got me out here accidentally saluting some old ass E4 in a panic because I thought I walked up on a whole ass Army full bird colonel. What? Sorry, I apologize. That rant was
I got a little, he went a little militant on me. He went military. He went military rank on me. I lost what he was saying. I was with him, then I lost him a little.
Pisses me off. Y'all got me out here accidentally saluting some old ass E4 in a panic because I thought I walked up on a whole ass Army full bird colonel.
Don't know.
Sorry, I apologize. That rant was meant to stay internalized. Anyway, it's not that Williams was dumb or anything, far from it in fact. But many of his shipmates believed that his lack of formal education caused him to struggle with passing that chief's test. No matter how many times he tried, over and over and over again, he just couldn't seem to pass this damn test.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense.
No, none taken.
Without passing the chief's test, Williams had no shot at getting promoted, and after 19 years, he was considering getting out and getting into law enforcement. Ultimately, he decided to stay in, even though with a wife and 5 kids, the pay of an officer petty class first, a class officer petty first, damn it! The pay of a first-class petty officer would only go so far. Damn you, Navy, and your long-ass rank names. So yeah, Williams decided to stay in. Not for the pay or the chance to advance his career, but because, like most historical badasses tend to be, he wanted to do great things. Williams wanted to contribute. He wanted to see combat, and more than anything, he wanted to lead men in battle as a boat captain. And as unrealistic as that last one was, fortunately for everyone involved, he would soon see that dream turn into a reality. Alright, so time for some quick context. Now, even though we all like to give the Navy all kinds of shit because, as we all know, dick jokes are hilarious, putting that aside for a moment, the simple fact remains is that he who controls the sea rules the world. Wow, I knew you were dumb, but I didn't know you were also illiterate. If the Navy were so important, then how come... Look,
Okay. I'm seeing similarities in the video structure. Both named Nick. Both got the keyboard warriors. My boy got the pineapple SpongeBob light pink shirt to put on for his haters. We just gonna call them haters. You see them.
You were dumb, but I didn't know you were also illiterate.
My boy got a pink pineapple seersucker shirt on. That's what his haters that's what his haters attire resembles. Okay.
He rules the world. Wow, I knew you were dumb, but I didn't know you were also illiterate. If the Navy were so important, then how come... Look, I'm gonna just stop you right there because I've got only 5 words for you. Royal Navy, East India Company. I see what you did there. Yeah, exactly. If Great Britain taught us anything other than the fact that they could build a whole ass empire on trade and spices and still manage to have terrible food, it's that centuries of uncontested intercoastal rear pillaging was no problem at all when you have the literal king dingaling of naval power. And yes, in case you're wondering, there will be dick jokes aplenty in this video. Because Navy.
Ha! What? Gay!
From day one, the Navy's job description...
I just got it. The whole Simpsons torpedo in the hole. I just got it. It just... Damn, Navy, they doing y'all like that. Damn, twin.
Ha! Gay!
From day one, the Navy's job description has been to keep the peace, and if for whatever reason that fails, they want to own the seas. Basically, the name of the game is that we want to control the blue stuff so that our stuff can move and your stuff doesn't. And furthermore, if we absolutely must, the Navy will have no problem at all turning your coastlines into front lines, making your beaches open for business, and unleashing Marines on the scene with amphibiously assaulting you in a tone that only the devil dogs can truly understand.
Or I shoot him, and I shoot all you motherfuckers, and then we take it. Your choice, bitches.
Now this is great and everything, but now we have to fast forward a bit because the landscape has now changed. Vietnam turned this entire idea into a full-time job because when you narrow it down, winning a fight against an enemy who insists on waging guerrilla warfare essentially comes down to only two main objectives: deprive them of things and destroy whatever is left. And that's it. That is literally the entire playbook. But in order to win the game, you're going to need some star players. And Uncle Sam, well, he had plenty of that to go around. In order to wage this new water war, the Navy needed to own a little region known as the Mekong Delta. And by little, I don't mean little at all. We're talking about more than 4,000 miles of interlaced waterways, big muddy arteries, canals up to 130 feet wide, flooded plains, and mangrove swamps thick enough to hide an entire battalion of baddies. The visibility was straight up garbage. The banks looked like they were tailor-made for ambush country, and basically it was the worst of the worst to try and fight in. So how are we going to pull this off? Operation Game Warden would be headed up by River Patrol Force, aka Task Force 116, and their mission would be to deny the enemy the main waterways, block cross-river movement, and make sure that anything floating on the surface that isn't supposed to be there, well, doesn't.
Bruh, is that the flamethrower? Bruh, look. I ain't know the flame was throwing that much. I didn't know the flame could reach that distance. Look at this shit.
And their mission would be to deny the enemy the main waterways, block cross-river movement, and make sure that anything floating on the surface that isn't supposed to be there, well, doesn't. And in order to pull off this amount of aggressive waterborne bullying off, the River Patrol Force showed up with some serious toys to include the UH-1 Bravo Seawolf gunships and the PBRs. Starting with the Seawolves, these guys were absolutely critical to Task Force 116. These guys would show up like the world's angriest customer service department. You call, they show up, and before they left, whether you liked it or not, somebody was getting a refund in 2.75-inch increments. But truthfully, the piece of equipment that became the stuff of legend during Operation Game Warden had to go to the PBR. The PBR, which stood for Patrol Boat River, was the backbone of this operation. At peak strength, about 250 PBRs were fielded by Task Force 116, and the op tempo went from 0 to there's Charlie everywhere, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Within 4 months of the PBRs first arriving in March of '66, patrols were crawling all over the Delta. 2-boat PBR patrols averaged around 1,200 a month, spotted close to 50,000 watercraft, and boarded approximately 9,000 of them. And these would turn out to be straight up rookie numbers because at one point, the amount of boat detections would soar from 50,000 to a downright ridiculous 250,000 boats in a single month. Guys, if it's not sinking in by now, what I'm trying to tell you is that these boys weren't out here pleasure craft cruising. These boys were essentially Georgia State Patrol on the water, making their presence known. And
Wait a minute. Why would you say Georgia State Patrol? Are you here? Is he here? Nick, are you here? Come on, man. Why would you say Georgia State Patrol, bro? Why would you say that?
Cruising. These boys were essentially Georgia State Patrol on the water, making their presence known and building up an insane reputation in the process.
Ain't nobody tell you about us? Ain't nobody tell you about us? What'd they tell you? They said don't do that shit, right? Now you know.
I know about you. Trust me, I know about you.
Alright, so it is now July 23rd, 1966, and Operation Game Warden is in full swing. A naval intelligence officer has just informed Lieutenant McDavitt that the Viet Cong might try for a river crossing in his AO. Now, having received his orders, Lieutenant McDavitt decides to head out on patrol with 4 of his 10 PBRs, one of which being PBR 105, which is commanded by our protagonist, James Williams. At around
That's Nick without a beard. You not fooling nobody, bruh. It's Nick without a beard, bruh. I ain't playing these games.
Being PBR 105, which is commanded by our protagonist, James Williams. At around 10 p.m., Lieutenant McDavitt pulled his PBR alongside a Vietnamese sampan and ordered Williams to bring his PBR alongside to investigate. After hitting them with his spotlight and yelling at them to come here, the two men inside decided that they didn't like being told what to do and opened fire.
Oh! Now you f***ed up! Now you f***ed up! Now you f***ed up! You have f***ed up now!
AK-47 fire erupted towards Williams' boat, which, as you might imagine, he also didn't like very much. So in response, his crew lit them up with machine gun fire, killing 6 men on board and causing the remaining 3 to swim to safety. A search of the sampan later revealed documents with names of key figures contributing to the communist cause, along with several rifles and bombs. The men involved in this successful patrol all received commendations, with Williams receiving a Bronze Star with combat device, as well as the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Bronze Star for his actions. But these accolades would just straight up pale in comparison to what Lieutenant McDavitt would do for Williams next. The LT was so impressed with Williams that against all opposition, he moved forward with qualifying BM1 James Williams as a patrol officer. Patrol officers are the ones that are responsible for commanding a 2-boat patrol. They had full authority to initiate combat with the enemy, they had the ability to call in airstrikes and for artillery support, and these positions were traditionally reserved for commissioned officers and chief petty officers only. And Lieutenant McDavitt didn't just break this rule. As far as the other chiefs were concerned, he just straight up threw it on the ground and pissed all over it, making Williams the first sailor below the rank of Chief Petty Officer to ever command a 2-boat patrol.
I took it and threw it on the ground.
McDavitt would later go on to say, "I took more guff about that than anything I had ever done. The officers didn't care, but the chiefs were furious." James Elliott Williams was better under fire than all the officers and chiefs in the entire unit. He had a command sense. He knew what was going on and was able to get the big picture very fast and bring it all together. Now, translation for modern audiences, Williams was about that action and he had all the tools needed to get the job done.
Know this! Killing is my business, ladies! And business is good!
Now, Williams didn't take this new position lightly, and he'd later describe it as the proudest day of his entire life. While the medals and citations were nice and everything, what he really cared about was being a good leader and taking care of his men. Oh, and he also liked to gamble. Like, a lot. Nothing huge like with money or anything like that, but out on patrols, he would constantly bet on things like horse races or even which ant would cross the road first. And Williams would bring this same gambler level energy with him out on patrols and would become famous for taking all kinds of calculated risks.
That's crazy. So it's gambling culture here in Atlanta. A little behind the scenes gambling culture. And bro, when the big boys come with all the bread, when the big boys show up and they start rolling them $100 hands, then somebody start losing, they want to up it to try to get the money back. When those people who try to up it and, you know, fuck it, you bet that little small chain, go 300 a hand, go 300 a hand, go 300 a roll. They'll start doing the 300 a roll. He lose all their money in 3 rolls. He down to a last 100. They start betting on shit like that. They just start betting on, bro. I remember it was this one dude, bro. He moved a lot. Like when he would strike his number, he'll move a lot. And I remember one of the dudes who just lost all his money with another dude that just lost all his money. I don't gamble, but I do watch. And buddy, they bet. Listen to this shit. They bet on not on who. They bet if old boy, the one who was hitting and he be moving, bruh, he'll hit his number and he'll just go crazy. They was betting if his shoestring would come undone by all the jumping he's doing. So they bet on which roll. From the roll that they made the bet, they bet like, okay, I bet you on his fifth hit, his shoelace will come on top because his shoelace kept coming undone all night. Nigga he just kept tying his shoe over and over. He's like, damn, so they bet on that. It's crazy to me.
Him out on patrols and would become famous for taking all kinds of calculated risks. For example, while every other patrol officer would take what Uncle Sam gave them and just make do, Williams would take his chances by finding any way that he could to tweak a little more speed out of his PBR.
Power.
You try, Andrew.
Power and speed solves many things.
He'd do things like hot rod his engine, drop weight like extra armor, and would even carry less ammo and fuel so that he could go faster. One of his more insane gambles, or as Williams would call them, calculated risks, would be that he would actively seek out large concentrations of troops both on the water and on land. This was a situation that all other patrol officers, aka the chiefs and officers who all outranked him, would do everything in their power to avoid at all costs. But on the other hand, James, I ain't scared of shit, Williams would do the exact opposite of this. Instead of running away, he would go full speed ahead, do a single firing run, then he'd back off, grab himself a little distance, and then call in for helicopter support. The thing about this though is that he didn't call in the helicopters to finish the job, but instead would use them as a diversion. His reasoning for this is that he figured the Viet Cong would be so preoccupied with the Seawolves that were in the air that they would pay little to no attention to his PBR that was in front of them on the water. And on top of that, because the Seawolves were so much faster, had better visibility, and more firepower than his PBR, he essentially had them trapped, which meant that he could take his time picking the Viet Cong apart with little to no risk of return fire.
None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me!
Okay.
Alright, so fast forward a bit and it is now October 31st, 1966, and unknown to Williams at the time, he's about to take his biggest gamble ever. Once again, River Section 531 had received some solid intel about enemy movement in the area. The reports indicated that up to 1,000 NVA were going to attempt a river crossing, and an additional 200 to 900 Viet Cong would also be there providing security. So now that Williams and his men had their orders, late that evening on Halloween, his two-boat patrol headed out. Not long into the patrol, Williams spotted a small sampan crossing the river and went over to investigate. And the men on board clearly didn't like that Williams was encroaching on their personal space, so they made their displeasure known by firing at them. Now Williams, never one to back down from a fight, immediately had his boys return fire with his twin 50 cals. And because John Moses Browning, aka Black Powder Jesus, got it right the first time, the sampan decided that they didn't want to deal with these overly aggressive waterborne assassins and took off. But no sooner did that first sampan run off when another one just David Copperfielded itself into this fight. So Williams stayed on both of them, and he even managed to take out a couple of enemy soldiers in the process. The two sampans then decided to split up, with Williams electing to follow the one going southbound. After taking him out, Williams then threw his PBR to a skid, busted a U-turn, and headed back north towards the one that was trying to get away. Keyword:
them shits can do that? Them boats can do that? Did you see that nose go in so he can... That happened? That don't happen. Why you lying to me, Nick? Nick, come on, bro. I already got one Nick lying to my ass. I don't need another one. The hell?
Going southbound. After taking him out, Williams then threw his PBR to a skid, busted a U-turn, and headed back north towards the one that was trying to get away. Keyword: trying. Now, while all of this was going on, there was one thought that Williams just couldn't get out of his mind, and it was that the sampans that they were running down weren't being piloted by Viet Cong. Instead, they were full of NVA. Now, to be fair, it wasn't out of the ordinary to encounter NVA in the northern provinces and central highlands. However, it was very unusual to run across them in the VC-dominated delta that they were currently operating in. But regardless, Williams stayed on him, and after catching up to him, he found himself having to pump the brakes since his PBR was too large to make it down the canal that the sampan had went down. Unfortunately for this poor soul, Williams came prepared. He knew this area like the back of his hand, so he went around to cut him off. Now, this knowledge combined with his armor reductions and engine tinkering meant that his PBR was catching up fast. So fast, in fact, that the tree line looked like every Fast and Furious character ever hitting the NOS. Now stay with me, boys. I know where he's got to come out. We'll get him. After catching up with him, he saw that the sampan had went down into the Nam Ton River. Williams, being the gambler that he is, decided to roll the dice again and go and do a little bit of sneak and peek. Williams knew that this was risky, but maybe surprise and hyper-aggression could tip the odds in his favor. Hell, it works for the Marines, so why not him? Now, that being said, I was being a little tongue-in-cheek earlier when I said that Williams didn't wait for backup. The man was known for his common sense, so he did call back to his hire, inform them of the situation, and he also requested some helicopter support just in case. But regardless, they pushed on, and as soon as they rounded the bend, almost right on cue, all hell broke loose. Heavy fire erupted from 8 machine gun positions straight ahead of them. Williams and the boys immediately returned fire, and while they were busy saturating that area with copious amounts of copper, he got his first taste as to why this area was so heavily defended. Now, depending on the source, it said that Williams and the boys found 12 more machine gun positions, between 8 and 50 sampans with 20 soldiers each, and 2 large junks with 20 soldiers each as well. Williams was completely shocked by what he had just run across, with each sampan so completely full of soldiers that they were barely 2 inches above the waterline. Now, it's at this point Williams is realizing that there isn't going to be enough time to turn around and shape this fight in his favor, so he pretty much just said screw it and went full speed. He continued to keep the throttle pinned as he began swerving to avoid enemy mortar fire and to give his grenade launchers a chance for a clear shot. And as he's moving closer to the gap and getting closer and closer to the outer perimeter of the boats in the water, it's at this point where all those monster truck shows that Williams had been watching would finally pay off. Because by the time he finally reached the first sampan, his first instinct wasn't to keep pumping it full of lead, but instead, he goes with option B is for Bigfoot and runs it clean over. You're an idiot. Monster trucks didn't come on the scene until after 1970, and Bigfoot didn't crush his first cars until after 1980. If you spent less time making unoriginal fat electrician jokes, then maybe you'd be able to get your facts straight. Look, guy, I know that you're bored, sexually frustrated, and you've got nothing better to do than to talk shit on my videos, but if this is your first time on the internet, then I guess I'm obliged to inform you that these are just jokes, my guy. Well, I don't think your jokes are very funny. And also, I don't like all the cutaways to movie references. Just stay on topic. I didn't come here to watch a bunch of movie clips.
Well, you know what? Fuck your shirt then. Fuck your shirt. Okay? Shut up and let the man do the video. Fuck your damn pink seersucker pineapple shirt. Shit. Shut up and let the man do the video.
To movie references. Just stay on topic. I didn't come here to watch a bunch of movie clips. Oh, holy crap. I'm so tired of these people.
Huh. What do you mean, you people?
Yeah!
Alright, I hear you. I'll try.
He's black. He gets to put that. Oh my God. This is just good. This is good. This is good. Of course he gets to post Robert Downey, full blackface, full black man character, calling out a little racial tension. Of course he gets to do that. Oh, yeah. Okay, Nick. All right, I see what you did there, bro.
What do you mean, you people?
Alright, I hear you. I'll try to use less movie clips. Anyway, after Williams ran that first sampan over, he thought to himself,
That was fun.
and then he proceeded to run over another, and another, and another. The aftermath of turning their boats into the sum of their parts meant NBA soldiers went crashing into the water and rolled up in the PBR's wake. And the NBA were not about to take that disrespect lightly, so, in retaliation, they returned fire from the banks directly onto the PBRs. Except that it didn't go according to plan in the slightest. Because in the confusion of trying to hit these speedboats blasting through their troop-carrying canoes, the NBA missed the PBRs entirely and instead hit their own men on the other side.
They're missing it by a mile.
Safest place is in front of that gun.
To say this entire firefight was absolutely insane is an understatement and a half. At one point, a couple of 57mm recoilless rifle rounds came screaming towards Williams' PBR and actually managed to make contact with his boat. Now, under normal circumstances, this could be considered a problem, but remember, this isn't Game of Thrones where no character is safe. Williams isn't the supporting cast. He's the one writing the story here, therefore, he cannot be off that easily. The round not only managed to pass clean through his boat, missing all the critical PBR components, but somehow he managed to get some bonus kills with the round hitting NBA troops on the opposite side of the riverbank. Both PBRs and their crews emerged pretty much fully intact, and it was around this time when Williams could finally hear the Seawolf helicopters he had called for earlier approaching his position. Now, knowing that superior firepower was on its way, Williams yet again rolled the dice and decided to go in a different direction to investigate the situation from another angle.
Yeah!
Jimmy, don't roll. Give me the dice.
I got it. Looking for six. Looking for 6. Oh, 7 out, line in.
Well, you can't win them all, and Williams' luck seemingly had just run out.
Dang.
Keyword, seemingly. They didn't make it 1.5 football fields when they found themselves staring down the barrel of yet another concentration of junks, sampans, and troops that somehow was even larger than the first one. This is insane. This cannot be done. All Williams had to work with was 2 boats, a couple of battered Americans, and a handful of ammo. There was no possible way that he was going to fight his way out of this one.
Well, it's going to be tough for him to get out of that situation. Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
No, this wasn't going to be a problem at all, because y'all keep forgetting that Williams, unlike his patrol boat commander counterparts, actually prefers to engage with large concentrations of enemy. And for all the longtime viewers of this channel, you have already figured out what's about to go down next. What has actually just happened is that Williams has found himself in what the Marines would call a target-rich environment, so now it's time for Dad to take his belt off and go to work.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
With approximately 0 hesitation and all out of to give, Williams jammed his throttle wide open again and prepared for his encore. He leaned heavily on his old friend's speed and power, with Williams and his partner in PBR 99 letting their engines roar and their machine guns sing. The canal erupted with bullets, grenades landed all around them, and explosions from mortars kept getting dangerously closer and closer to finding their mark.
Break the world record for gunfights of the week. This is not the time to criticize. I can't work with you blaming on me all the time. This is not your fault. This is not your fault. No. Bullshit, Mike. Everything's your fault.
The peppering of rounds against their boat sent fiberglass shards flying all around them, and despite this, they weren't fazed in the slightest. Williams had them repeat their same violence of action once more, and just like last time, they pretty much came out fully intact. But even with all the destruction they left in their wake, Williams knew that the job still wasn't done. He knew it was time to break out the Seawolves. PBR 105 Seawolf, there are still plenty of NBA left. What are your intentions? Over. Seawolf, this PBR 105. Listen, I want you to go in there and have a field day with those guys. I'm going back in though. Over. What an absolute Chad. So now the boys are back at it again. It's PBR.
What the fuck is a Chad, Nick? An absolute Chad? What? Y'all gotta learn me on this stuff, man.
What an absolute Chad. So now the boys are back at it again. It's PBRs and Seawolves teaming up. Guys, this is the Vietnam Water War equivalent of Shaq and Kobe, Batman and Robin, grunts and caffeine, me and white women. You get the idea. Teamwork makes the dream work. The Seawolves laid down hella machine gun fire, with my favorite people on the planet, aka helicopter door gunners, raining down copious amounts of 7.62 hate from their M60s. But the M60s were only the opening act, because when both Williams and the Seawolves let their rockets loose on the junks, a massive explosion sent debris flying over 1,000 feet in the air. Turns out, Williams' intuition was correct about those junks being potentially loaded down with supplies and ammunition. Taking full advantage of the chaos, Williams continued his onslaught by speed running like an Olympic skier, moving his craft between who was left and turning them from a standing problem to a historical footnote. The battle raged on into the night, and while all of this was going on, a nearby army general was listening in over the radio, and this—
So they hit one of the one of their supply damn, what's the word? Oh my god. Not containers, I forget, but they hit their supply, blew up the supply, hence the 1,000-foot debris explosion, right? Okay.
All of this was going on. A nearby army general was listening in over the radio, and this man could not believe what he was hearing. He just had to see this for himself. So he hops into his helicopter, made his way to the battle, and he is just hovering overhead before calling out over the radio, and I swear I am not making this up. This general calls out over the radio, Hey, get that man a flak jacket. This has got to be some of the most staff officer poach I've ever heard in my life. There is a whole firefight happening underneath him, and Williams is not having it. He is outnumbered 50-1, and he will be damned if some Geo is gonna come in his AO and tell him how to run his show. So he grabs the radio and barks back. Sir, get your damn copter and your ass out of here. We're taking care of this. Out.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
Well, the general gets the message, so he just takes off. And finally, over 3 hours later, the battle was finally over. Now, when all was said and done, the final assessment was as follows. NBA losses.
I know that general was like, well, shit, if this is his day, if he want this to be his day, how the hell with him? Let him have his day then. I'm pretty sure we gonna get some bad news when they get back. Especially you ain't 3 hours after you left, after you observed what you deserved. 3 hours later, they still at it. Yeah, bro, buddy gone, buddy gone. Buddy gotta be gone. Buddy ain't coming back.
Now, when all was said and done, the final assessment was as follows. NBA losses, 1,000. Vessels destroyed, 65. Vessels captured, 6. American lives lost, 0.
That's what I'm talking about!
Lying.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Bullcrap. My sources say they only took out 50 NBA, they sank less than 50 vessels, and they didn't capture any. Come here. Okay, 2 things. First of all,
0 of all, fuck your shirt. Now we can get to first of all.
Currently live in a world where we have instant information at our fingertips and we can access everything in the world that has ever been written ever, and we still get wildly different numbers and opinions about the exact same things. And again, that's today with everyone having one of these in their pocket. And just so I'm understanding this correctly, you expect 100% accurate reporting back in the 60s, in the middle of an active war zone in a 2v100 battle on the water. Get out of here with that bullshit. And second of all, and I cannot stress this enough, when you go in and turn everything in your path into splinters that land in moving water, it's kind of hard to tell what's what when the thing you just destroyed isn't necessarily where you beat up on it last.
After all, we can both rebuild, right?
Right. Wait. Rebuild?
I burned it. All of it.
The Halloween Massacre, as it would later be known, would go on to earn Williams the Medal of Honor, but make no mistake, this did not stop him from continuing to go above and beyond in everything that he did. On January 1967, a dredge called Jamaica Bay was attacked when a team of Viet Cong swimmers managed to set off a couple of mines just below its waterline. The resulting blast killed 3 crew members and tore a hole in it so large that the entire dredge went underwater. Williams, who was working in the area that day, heard the explosion and immediately went over to assist. He managed to pull 2 survivors on board and then continued his search for anyone who might still be out there. He kept searching with his spotlight until eventually finding 5 more crew members, which he too brought on board and transferred to a nearby tug. Now, Williams, still not content that he'd done a thorough enough job, went back to the side of Jamaica Bay when he heard what sounded like tapping from its hull. The hull was mostly underwater at this point, so Williams and his gunner stripped down and jumped into the murky water. They swam and shouted, trying to locate the source of the tapping, until finally an old man named Pops called out yelling that he was trapped in a compartment. Williams and his gunner dove down and found the hatch, but it was completely wedged with iron pipes on top of it. Williams proceeded to flag the tug over, which allowed them to remove the pipes, but still, they had no luck at opening the hatch. Unfortunately, it had been damaged in the blast and was jammed shut. They were running out of time, so like a mom digging deep to free a stuck child, Williams and Bender gave it one more try, and against all odds, the hatch opened and Pops was rescued. Both Williams and his gunner Bender would receive the Navy and Marine Corps medal for saving Pops and 7 other men that day. Now, up until this point, Williams has had a pretty good track record of getting in, getting the job done, and getting out without so much as a scratch on him or his men. But unfortunately, given enough time and chances for things to go wrong, and eventually, on January 15th, 1967, his luck would finally run out. That evening, Williams received a report that the Viet Cong were once again attempting to cross the channel. Williams, who was still waiting for his Medal of Honor to be approved, didn't hesitate for a moment, so he headed out in his PBR 105, and PBR 103 accompanied him, rounding out his team. Now, as per usual, the sampans opened up with intense fire, and soon
that damn music. He got that music playing in the background. This ain't good. This ain't good. You know, as soon as it came on, this not good. This not good.
Rounding out his team. Now, as per usual, the sampans opened up with intense fire, and soon PBRs 104 and 96, along with helicopter gunship support, swooped in to help as well. Not long into the fight, Murphy's Law would eventually catch up with them, and PBR 96's intakes would get clogged with debris. Without a method of propulsion, this forced the remaining 3 boats to remain in the kill zone, while the 96 crew worked to clear the pumps. During this firefight, bullets would continue to rain down on them from the shoreline, and tragically, one of them would find its mark, striking one of his closest friends and cover boat, Quartermaster First Class Terrell E. Carter, in the head. 2 others would be wounded in the exchange, to include Williams, and when it was all said and done, Williams and his men would be credited with stopping the crossing of nearly 400 men, killing 16 troops, wounding 20 more, and destroying 9 watercraft. Williams would be awarded the Navy Cross for his leadership that day, but to him, it was one of the darkest days of his life. In later years, Williams' son Michael would go on to say, quote, "I think Daddy would have traded all of his medals in exchange for Carter's life. That event haunted him his entire life." The loss of his best friend, along with his increasing frustration with his inability to make chief, eventually convinced him to leave the service after his tour in Vietnam had ended. After he received his Medal of Honor, he'd go on to take the test one final time, and again, he failed. The Navy offered him a promotion anyway, with the condition that he serve as a recruiter for a couple of years, but Williams flat out declined. After the war, Williams went on to become a U.S. Marshal and eventually would become the U.S. Marshal for the state of South Carolina. In recognition for his outstanding service, on July 9, 1975, the Secretary of the Navy would make Williams an honorary Chief Petty Officer, and he'd continue to work as a U.S. Marshal until he eventually retired. Williams would go on to live a full life before eventually passing away at the age of 68 on December 13, 1999. He was laid to rest with full military honors at Florence National Cemetery in Florence, South Carolina. After his passing, the Navy would continue to pay tribute to Williams when in 2004, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, the USS James E. Williams, was named in his honor. I believe I speak for everyone when I say it's the least we could do to honor a true American hero. I appreciate all y'all watching, and please, if you want to support me and what we're doing here, then go grab yourself some merch at tangoalpha.store. Y'all have been great. Out.
That's the Nick was playing with across the street, man. You know, Nick grew up across, he went and played, he lived on this side of the street, but after school, he went and played on that side of the street. This who he played with. Y'all ain't slick. And Nick, you ain't want to do this video because you ain't want to make a video about yourself. I get it. So you sent your partner to do it. I get it, bro. Okay. So that was my first tactically acquired reaction. I'm feeling that. I was feeling it. It's a similar story structure to Fatty Electrician. He even knows people makes the comparison. I wasn't mad at it. Y'all let me know if there's any more videos of his that I need to react to. I'm rocking with it, Nick. And I'm about to do a Fatty. I'm going Nick on Nick today. Man, come on, man. Nickelodeon today, man. Let go. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Catch y'all on the next one. I'm out, y'all. Peace.